Welcome to the Brooklyn Historical Society, where the vibrant history of Brooklyn is made tangible, meaningful, and relevant today. These videos feature inspirational highlights and excerpts from our teaching and learning resources. To find more exciting content, visit us online at www.brooklynhistory.org. This is the second video in a three-part series exploring Brooklyn Historical Society's project, Muslims in Brooklyn. This project provides opportunities to hear Muslims tell their stories in all their complexity and nuance, connecting the personal with historical events and encouraging Muslim and non-Muslim listeners to understand how these stories are part of the shared national heritage of a multi-ethnic, multiracial democracy. For access to all of BHS's oral history collections, including the full Muslims in Brooklyn collection, visit our oral history portal at oralhistory.brooklynhistory.org. This video introduces the recently launched Muslims in Brooklyn website, muslims.brooklynhistory.org, which offers an alternative approach to listening to oral histories. Thematically organized audio clips, lesson plans, and additional resources are available at muslims.brooklynhistory.org. There is no one profile, cultural, racial, ethnic, political, or geographic, by which Muslims in Brooklyn can be identified. Brooklyn's Muslims include peoples of European, Eastern European, African American, Arab, South Asian, Asian and Pacific Islander, and African descent, each sharing a common faith but with diverse histories and cultural expressions. In 1965, Congress passed the Immigration and Nationality Act, which abolished quotas that had previously prevented immigration from predominantly Muslim countries. Over the following decades, new arrivals established Muslim communities in Bay Ridge and Brooklyn Heights, Bangladeshi communities in Kensington and East New York, and Pakistani communities in Midwood and Brighton Beach. They formed lasting institutions including Masjid Musab bin Umair in Bay Ridge and Masjid Al-Aman in East New York. African American Muslims also built new traditions in growing black communities in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Crown Heights, Bushwick, Brownsville, and East New York. The oral history interviews that were collected from members of Brooklyn's Muslim communities in 2018 and 2019 as part of the Muslims in Brooklyn project highlight an incredible range of personalities, cultural experiences, and perspectives about what it means to be a Muslim in Brooklyn. Kabir Ahmed Chowdhury immigrated to the United States from Bangladesh in 1991 and settled in East New York, where he worked in real estate and banking and began taking on leadership roles at Masjid Al-Aman.
My name is Kabir Ahmed Chowdhury. I was born in Bangladesh. It's a very small village called Porchok, and then it's Sylhet, Bangladesh. And right after high school, I had a wonderful opportunity, or I was one of the lucky one, to be selected on a visa program through a lottery system, and that's what brought me here to the United States.
Stacey Salima Bell was raised in the Bensonhurst neighborhood of Brooklyn and was a founding member of the American Muslim Law Enforcement Officers Association and of Muslims Employed in City Corrections Association. In her oral history interview with BHS, Salima Bell discusses the diversity she experienced leading a cohort of Muslim Girl Scouts and differences between Islamic identity and other cultural practices.
We did scouts on Friday evenings, lots of fun things. The one thing that I loved about, not the one thing, there were so many things, but one of the major things that I loved about doing scouts there is I brought some of the African American girls, we had Pakistani girls, we had Arab girls, we had African girls, and the one thing that's great about this country when Muslims converge is you start to see what's cultural and what's Islamic. When those girls sat in a circle and I asked them one question, what do you eat when you break fast during Ramadan? Do you eat something traditional? So the West African girls were like, yes. They were clearly things that were the same. And we knew that those things were the Islamic things. So when someone says, I break my fast with dates, with water, that's something traditional that the Prophet Muhammad did. But then when we start diverging, but for my iftar or for my meal, what I have is I have rice and beans that came from the girl who was Puerto Rican. I have plátanos maduro that was from the girl who was Puerto Rican. From the black girls, well, my mother made mac and cheese. She fried chicken, or she had roasted baked chicken. We had greens. And then some of the other girl, well, that's not Muslim. And I would say, who says? Clearly it's Muslim. We eat different foods. We're supposed to have our culture. And it's something else that the Prophet Muhammad said to the Ummah. So Islamic is breaking it with the dates and the water. Everything else that we did was not necessarily Islamic. It was your culture. And what happens there is the girls start to get insight, like they understand why they're doing things, and then they can decide for themselves what they will keep and what they will get rid of.
Asad Dandia co-founded the nonprofit charity Muslims Giving Back and continues to be involved with a number of other activist and religious organizations throughout New York City. Dandia highlights how different generations and their experiences, even those shared with others, form new versions of identity.
Well, my father and my mother immigrated to the United States in the early 80s. I was born in the early 90s. Growing up in Brighton Beach, I grew up in, I guess, what I would call a Muslim enclave surrounded by Little Russia. We had our local mosque, our doctor, our dentist, our grocery store, our school. So it was a very tight-knit community. Everyone knew everybody else. And it's still more or less the same up until today.
American Muslims number about 3.5 million people in the United States, or 1% of the country's total population. Muslims in the U.S. are also one of the most demographically diverse populations of Muslims anywhere in the world, and one of the most diverse religious communities in the country. In the 20th century, the U.S. Muslim population began to grow significantly through a combination of increased immigration from Muslim-majority countries and conversion to Islam predominantly, though not exclusively, among African Americans. These patterns have continued into the new millennium and have influenced the growth and evolution of Islam in the U.S. in recent years. Immigration, conversion, and the continued proliferation of Muslim institutions, mosques, Islamic schools, and social service organizations have all contributed to the development of the American Muslim population. To learn more about the diversity of Muslims in Brooklyn and to find ideas about how to teach and learn from our oral history collection, visit our Muslims in Brooklyn website at muslims.brooklynhistory.org.